It's estimated that around 1.7 million Australians are currently living with diabetes. One of those people is Barnaby Howarth. He's the guy who's rolling the auto cue now as I read there he is, these words to you. He's the guy who makes sure I'm saying the right thing most of the time. And he's going to come up now and have a chat with me because, come on up, Barnaby, he's launching a book today that talks about living with diabetes and a few other challenges he's faced in his life. And that book launch is happening a little later today at the SCG. So here he comes. Barnaby, how does it feel like to be on the other side of the camera?
It's a nice view from up here.
Take a seat there. So why were you keen to write a book on this?
I wrote my autobiography after I played a season with the Swans when I was diabetic. But then I had a stroke in 2005, and the challenges that I faced with the stroke were, I faced them in a similar way that I dealt with diabetes. And I'm really proud of a lot of things I've done in my life, so I wanted to get them down for posterity, so I hired a professional writer to write my biography.
Oh, cool. And so when did you realise you had diabetes?
I was 14 when I was diagnosed with diabetes.
Yeah. And was it a life-changing experience then? Did you have to incorporate much into your life?
Well, kind of, but I saw it more as a forced good diet, because my diet was pretty rubbish when I was younger. Yeah. I had a lot of chocolate and Coke and all that sort of stuff. So diabetes, you can't afford to do that. And I was a keen Aussie Rules footballer when I was younger as well, so having a really good diet, trying to make your way in AFL circles is probably not a bad thing.
And you've got a device on your hip there now. Show us what that is and talk us through what you have to do every day.
I do. I used to be on needles to inject my insulin, but this is an insulin pump. Yep. So when I need insulin, I dial up what my blood sugar level is, and it tells me how much insulin I should have. And then it goes through this tube into my stomach.
Yeah. And that's something that you've done kind of on and off now for 10 or 20 years or so?
I was 14, 20 years.
Yeah. And it's still, like, even though you're someone who's had a huge amount of experience with this over the years, it can still be really dangerous because just a month or so ago, you ended up collapsed in a laneway in Sydney because your levels got out of whack.
Yeah, well, I think with a stroke, all your focus is on that. So diabetes sort of went on the back burner and, you know, I didn't really take as good control as I should have.
Yep.
So one day I was in the city in Sydney and I went down this little laneway when it was starting to rain and passed out because my sugars were too low. And I stayed there for probably 45 minutes.
Jeez, so you're probably passed out in a laneway for 45 minutes in Sydney with no one kind of picking you up and going for help.
Yeah, well, some random guy luckily rang the paramedics and they came, and I didn't have identification jewellery, which I've since remedied. I've now got something I wear.
And so how touch and go for you was that?
Oh, that, in terms of life-threatening, once they got me into Sydney Hospital, I was stabilised and it was okay, but it was more the threat of being unconscious in a laneway in Sydney. Yeah. That anything could have happened.
So if you'd been lying there for much longer, how dangerous could that have been for you with your levels out of whack?
Oh, I could have died. Like, it's pretty full on. You need sugar to take messages to your brain. Yeah. So because my sugars were low, the insulin was still working, taking out sugar. So if it took out all the sugar, then I wouldn't have made it.
And so what's your message then to other people with diabetes and even people who've been dealing with it for a long time?
Well, my message to diabetics is look after yourself, keep your sugars under control. But my message to anybody, whether it's diabetic or stroke victims or anything, is just realise that good things happen to bad people, bad things happen to good people. You just, you know, that's your card in life. You've just got to deal with it the best you can.
Yeah. And muck around in the puddles. It can rain a lot.
Play in the puddles.
Speaking of which, that's the book that Barnaby has written, if we can get a shot of that there. But Barnaby likes hogging the camera today. But yeah, there is the book that Barnaby's launching today. Great to have you up on this side of the camera, Barnaby.
Thanks, Joe. I better get back to work.
Okay, this is the only time that it's okay for someone to walk in front of the camera. Okay, let's take a look at the weather now.